Hi. So I didn't really knit or crochet in 2023. I had a lot of grand plans and I was really excited about 2023, and then it ended up being a very challenging year. Not a bad year, but a challenging year. And I just wasn't finding joy in knitting or crochet, which is really, sad. Like there were times in which when people were kind of checking in on me about how I was feeling, I was like, I'm not even knitting or crocheting anymore. Even when I was really sad or stressed in the past few years, like that was the thing that helped me relax or like helped me feel better. And I wasn't even at a point where like I could be bothered to pick up knitting and crochet. And while it might have, like, it was mostly driven by a lot of change in my life and like that taking precedent over hobbies, I suppose. I also think that maybe I bit off a bit more than I could chew from a stash busting perspective. Like I just got too excited, I think. And in doing that, once the haze of like excitement and motivation started to clear, it just felt really overwhelming and it felt almost like a chore. And I think that also contributed to why I just didn't do anything craft-wise in 2023. I made a Spider-Punk beanie for my boyfriend because like Spider-Verse came out. He loves the comics, like even outside of TV and movie adaptations of like Marvel stuff. So he's a big fan of Spider-Punk as well. So it just made sense, and it was a really cute, fun project. I remember just seeing a video on it on TikTok, and I kind of watched that and extrapolated from there and freehanded it, which was like a fun little thing to do. And that was it. That was it for my 2023. What I made in 2023, done. Like, but I think letting go of a lot of stuff towards the end of the year, doing a bit of a clean out, honestly, just saying goodbye to a few UFOs and projects that I was like, I'm not gonna make this. I'm not gonna wear this. I don't remember what pattern I was using for it. Like, if anything, at this point, this is just something that I look at and makes me like feel more stressed to get crafty. So it wasn't helping with the knitting slump. So I let go of a lot of that. I did buy some yarn last year, which was like definitely not in the plan. I think a few times I kind of convinced myself foolishly that like, well, look, this is a really bad knitting slump. Like, clearly something is wrong here. Maybe if I buy this cool yarn, it'll kick me out of my knitting slump. It never does, right? Like, so I'll probably will have to factor that into my next stash busting or like knitting podcast. But I also found yarn in my bedroom that I had like stashed away, like some kind of rodent. Like, it was like in the back of my wardrobe. I don't know why I put it there. I don't remember how long it's been there for. But when I was cleaning up, I found it and was like, and I think that like my reaction to finding it, which was just like, ugh, more yarn, was kind of indicative to me that something had to change with my stash busting approach. Like, I should be excited to kind of shop my stash or find new yarn to play with. And I wasn't. I was like thinking about, oh, this brings my total back up. This sets me back. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, that's what pushed me off this path in the first place. It became about using stuff as quickly as possible and not using things intentionally and like in a way that brought joy to me. And I have to remind myself that this is a marathon, not a sprint. I shouldn't be so focused in on like results and finished projects. All I need to seek to do with this activity is to be a more conscious consumer. And I do think it has shifted the way like I interact with yarn and knitting and crafting, but I'm not like there yet. If someone were to ask me how I felt I was, like if I were to grade myself in terms of being a conscious knitter and crocheter, it'd probably be like a C+, probably. But I think letting go of some of those expectations and that mindset has also helped me feel better equipped to tackle this year in terms of stash busting, to just take it at my pace, do projects that bring me with joy, and also gifts. Something about, like I said, like the only thing I completed in 2023 was a gift to someone. And because I think like the excitement of giving someone something, or like the deadline of a birthday or Christmas, is motivating. So I don't know if I'll make necessarily more gifts this year than I did in like 2024, but it's a strategy I now have in my head. And I don't think I'm going to be, I think like the theme of 2024 for me is like grounded, realistic, chill out. That is the vibe. Because I'm only just starting to get out of this knitting slump, and I really don't want to just barrel my way back into it and like drop everything again for months at a time. God forbid another year. I love knitting and crochet, and it made me really sad to not enjoy it for like all of 2023 basically. So I don't want to be back there. And I think I'm going into this year with a much better perspective and mindset to hopefully prevent that from happening. Anyway, this isn't really like a groundbreaking video idea, but I personally really enjoy watching people's 2024 knitting and crochet plans, or like their like bucket list for that year. The projects that they want to knit that year. I always find it really interesting how people will take learnings from the previous year of like, you know, maybe I made too many trendy pieces and I actually found that I didn't get a lot of wear out of them. So this year I want to focus in on like classic timeless pieces or stuff like that. I always find those little tidbits which all like differ from person to person because everyone approaches crafting differently, right? I always find it really interesting. So given that my 2023 year was a wash, I wanted to share like kind of how I was approaching getting out of this knitting slump. So from a project's perspective, I don't have necessarily clear like, yes, I want to do this for sure, because I don't want to place harsh expectations on myself this year. I want to be like accountable. Like if I start a project, I want to put my all into finishing it, unless it ends up being a horrible pattern or there's like no way to make it work and like then I have to abandon it. Sure. But like I want to be more accountable to when I start a pattern this year. I don't want to have more than 3 whips going at a time. I don't want UFOs just haunting me around my place. Like I don't want it. So 3 whips at a time. Secondly, I want to do stuff that like excites me. And one of those things is like fairy core, which has been around for like years at this point. And I have never really made something that I feel like is like very femme, fairy core, frilly, like girly, because of my own insecurities about the way I look. Like in my brain, I'm like, well, yes, they look beautiful also on like these girls who are the testers and like these girls posting on Instagram, but they wouldn't look beautiful on me. Like, who are we kidding? And that's not nice. It's not cool. And because of that, I kind of like, I have a lot of patterns saved that I think are gorgeous and like beautiful and I really want to make them, but I just was like, but not for me. And that, like, I'm not going to prevent myself from making a project now because I'm insecure. So fairy core is where I've landed. If I swear to God, if someone says it's out of like off trend or it's like out of vogue now, I don't want to hear it, okay? I didn't get to enjoy it when it was trendy because I had my own hang-ups. I'm going to enjoy it now. So the patterns I have in mind for fairy core are mostly crochet, actually all crochet, like off the top of my head. It is the Judy dress by @Moon and Bailey's, which is just like beautiful, like long off the shoulder sleeves. If you look at it, you get it, right? Then I also have the Rosetta fairy dress and top. I think for this one I might just make the top because like I've seen people who kind of like layer it on top of pieces, which makes it more realistic for me to wear, but still so gorgeous. It looks like flower petals or butterfly wings, like crocheted and worn. It's beautiful. And that one is by @LuluBunny319. Oh my God, it's so beautiful and it makes me so excited. And like, oh my God, I will own that at some point. I'm probably not going to make all of these patterns because as well, another thing I want to do is be more conscious about purchasing patterns and like actually using the patterns I have in my library. But I'm not going to like prevent myself from buying a pattern if I've had it saved for months and it's been on my mind for months. So that's kind of where these designs come into place. They've been in my saved folder on my Instagram for ages. And so if I decide I want to make one, I'm going to make one. I've decided. The other thing that I really want to make is the cream puff top also / dress because you can kind of extend it to make it into a dress. I don't know, I think I might make the dress for this one. It is so cute. It's by In My Imagination, but with like a J instead of a G. Again, everyone will be linked down below if you want to get a better sense for their work, because a lot of these creators have tons of other patterns that are just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But I'm just focusing in on stuff that kind of piques that ethereal fairy, like tickles that bone, you know, for me. So those are kind of the 3 patterns that have caught my eye that I've been thinking about for a while and make me excited. Like, they're not something I've really made before because I haven't let me make them. And that's not fair to me. Why would I do that? So as much as I feel like it's a common thread for people to say in these videos that they want to make more practical stuff, more stuff that they'll wear, and I think it's a fair thing to say, specifically for me, I need excitement. I need something to reinvigorate my love for the craft and keep me on track for this year. And I feel like doing maybe a little trendy fun piece here and there will do that for me. The next thing is making projects for my climate, because I think aesthetically, I love winter knits. Chunky, big, like balaclavas, mitts, like all of the wintry, beautiful knitted goodness I think is gorgeous. If I made it, I could probably wear it for 2 weeks of the year, because I live in Sydney and it is stinking hot here for most of the year. So I want to challenge myself outside of what I find aesthetically pleasing to do. Actually, like that sounds backhanded, as if like the projects that I will be doing I don't find beautiful. I do find them beautiful, that's why I want to do them. But I want to push against this kind of pull I have towards wintry knits that I know that I just won't get as much wear out of because it's so hot here, into stuff that will be more useful for me and is different to what I've done in the past. I have a special exception to this because Typical Bliss recently posted her typical tabby gloves to her Instagram feed, and thank God she did, because they are incredible. I saw them and gasped. I'm making those mitts for myself, even though, like I said, it's not really that cold here to warrant gloves, but I don't care. That is so cute. That is so clever. Her designs are just, she's truly inspired, and I am certainly making those, even if they don't make sense for where I live. But I digress. My biggest inspo for summer knits is another Australian knitting creator, and that's Friday Knits, who like needs no introduction, right? She's an incredible designer, and she has so many patterns that I think really work for the summer and an Australian summer. So like the Lost Cami, the Revenge Sweetheart top, I'd probably make the top, not the dress, the boxy cardigan, her Making Waves top. I also think she recently posted about possibly doing a swimsuit pattern. Like, she is the summer knitting inspo for me, and I think the first thing I want to make from her is the boxy cardigan, like kind of in a loose gauge or a light gauge, because I just feel like that is a kind of a silhouette go figure that I like, and I will get a lot of wear out of, and it'll actually be light enough for me to wear a little bit more. The last kind of key thing for me is homewares and accessories. I have always been a garment girly. Like, even like accessories like hats and stuff, I'm kind of like about. I was, you know, that stereotype of the person who like, whose first project ever is like a full cardigan or sweater. I actually, because I, again, been cleaning, I brought it out for this. This is the first thing I ever made. I'm sure you don't have to guess what the inspo for this was. If you don't know, it was the Harry Styles cardigan that went viral. I saw that and was like, yes, but monochrome. I made this. And like, she's okay. Like, she's wearable, but she's massive. Like, look at this. This is what I'm talking about. Where am I gonna wear this in Sydney, Australia? It's so warm. But this was my first project ever when I learnt to like knit and crochet. And I just like never looked back. I've always been a garment person. But recently I saw a video from TL Yarn Crafts, who of course, again, incredible creator in the sphere. I love her content. She made a video about one skein projects, which from a stash busting perspective, I certainly need inspo of. And in that, she has whole sections, like she starts with garments, but you can imagine with one skein projects, you're kind of limited in what you can do. So when she gets onto the homewares, a portion of her video, it awoke something in me that like has never been there before. She mentioned things like placemats, pot holders, a door curtain, which is like so retro and fun and like not something I would have ever thought to make myself, bag savers, tissue box covers, and these are all small projects that I feel like not only help from a stash busting perspective where I just have like one random skein of yarn, but also like are small enough that I can kind of build momentum and like feel like I'm making progress without getting bogged down in a project that takes like weeks, you know, before you really feel like you've accomplished something. And as much as I want to, you know, back away from that mentality in my crafting, that's who I am. So being able to experience that kind of feeling of momentum on a smaller scale with projects that I really just like completely factored out of my craft. Like I've just never been excited or considered making a lot of homeware stuff, and now I feel so inspired by it because of that video. Now, like, these aren't set in stone. Again, we're easing ourselves back into crafting this year. I'm just doing stuff that makes me excited and feel inspired to knit and crochet so that I don't have another year like last year. But in terms of techniques that I would like to try is lace work. I'm currently working on a pair of just like plain socks, except they have this really nice lace work piece that goes up the side, and it looks, motif, lace work motif. I think that's the right term. It goes up one side of the sock and it looks so gorgeous, and it was really approachable. I think the chart in the pattern, because it's a free pattern, which I'll link, is like a 4-row repeat. So it felt really accessible for me, and like it looks gorgeous. It looks so pretty, and it's made me want to do more lace work or on a larger scale or a more complicated motif. But I don't really know what that looks like yet because I'm trying to keep flexible and adaptable in terms of how this year goes for me. So once I finish those socks, I think I'm going to go through my library of like patterns I already own, books that I own with patterns in them, and see if there's something, because I even have, there's like a book that's like the Japanese lacework stitch Bible, or 250 Japanese lacework stitches, something like that, and I have that book. So I don't know why I'm not making use of it. And it's just gorgeous, but I think I just always felt intimidated by it. Like I did it very rarely previously, and now I'm like obsessed, and I definitely want to do it on a larger scale this year. The other thing is granny squares. Again, kind of late to the party on this one. I feel like people love granny squares, but I guess I never really appreciated them aesthetically, but I've been seeing them in projects like that I didn't expect in different ways. That is like inspiring me to want to work with the stitch and kind of appreciating it in a way that I didn't before. So like I've seen granny square balaclavas. I always want to say baklava, which is so bad. Anyway, I'm sure I'm not the only person that struggles with that, but balaclavas, granny stitch balaclavas that like look gorgeous and really chic, bags, even I'm thinking maybe like, okay, why don't I make a granny square vest? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a bit crazy, but I'm gonna give granny squares a chance this year because I feel like I kind of discounted them from the start and never really appreciated them. And now I'm starting to learn that maybe I was too rash, and I wanna give them a go. The last thing for me is brioche. It's so spooky. I don't know. It's so scary to me. I'm really intimidated by it, but it looks beautiful. And I think if I'm taking a focus on smaller projects like accessories this year, I'm sure that there's something I can do that's brioche that won't be too spooky, like maybe a scarf or a hat. I don't know. I'm very scared to overpromise, but I think I've wanted to do brioche since 2022, and I just have never had the balls to try it. So I feel like if I'm gonna give myself one like challenge for the year, it's gonna be to do that, because everything else I think I'm being very kind to myself and very like what's the word, just chill. If I don't like something anymore, that's fine, you know. I want to be accountable to using my stash, and I want to be conscious with how I'm crafting, but I don't want to bog myself down with a lot of like mental load around what's something that's supposed to just bring me joy. So I feel like I can give myself one big ask, and I think that's going to be a brioche project. We'll see. Actually, the last thing, and this probably is the big ask, is that I want to design something this year. I'm not going to promise anything about that, like if it's going to be a garment or accessory or a homeware, but I want to make a free pattern. I want to design something and share it, because I feel like I get so much out of the knitting and crochet community. It is such an open, inviting, generous community, and I want to contribute to that in like a valuable, meaningful way. So I'm hoping by the end of the year, I'll be back into enough of a groove. I'll feel comfortable enough with the techniques again that I can design something and put it out into the community and just share a bit back of what I've gotten from everyone. We'll see. I'm so nervous. But I'm feeling a lot more hopeful about this year than I did last year. I mean, the bar was very low, but I'm back and I'm knitting again, and it shouldn't be too long before I post a stash busting update to let you know kind of more of the logistics of like where I'm at right now with acquisitions and whips and stuff like that. I'm just looking through everything that I've made as a note, and I feel hopeful. I'm nervous because I know how last year went, but I'm feeling hopeful, and I think I'm taking the right approach. And if you made it this far in this video, thanks for sticking around. I hope it was entertaining while you knitted or crocheted, whatever you're working on right now. But let me know what you felt about 2023, because I feel like a lot of creators had to take a step back. And I don't know what it was about the year that seemed to make it such a challenge for people, but I felt it, and I'm just glad to feel like I'm past the knitting slump and that I'm enjoying it again. And that's why I feel hopeful about this year. So it shouldn't be too long before I post a knitting podcast and a stash busting update, and I feel reinvigorated and excited for the year, and I'm gonna go now because I feel like I'm just rambling. Anyway, thanks, bye.